figure that we have on the shrine, well actually it's three of them, and the figure's called Amitabha. And Amitabha is the Buddha of infinite light and love. I'm calling my talk Finding Amitabha, Finding Infinite Light, Finding Love. It's kind of a personal talk, sharing some of my own sort of personal experiences, thoughts around that theme, and hopefully you'll discover a little bit about Amitabha in the process. So infinite light. Well, I think I've really, as far as I can remember, I've been attracted to light. I think actually it's probably a universal experience, this attraction to light. I think, they say, don't they, when you're in the, we start off life, don't we, in, say, the womb, where it's apparently very, very dark, and apparently it's very comfortable, you're getting nourished there, but at some point it becomes restrictive, as you grow, and then you're sort of thrust into the world, and then in a way you're thrust into the world, and everything's gone straightforwardly. You sort of open your eyes and you take in, you see, light appears. I remember when my son was born, him sort of just opening his eyes for the very first time, and it was quite a magical experience, just thinking, well, this is the first time that he's taking in the environment and light. He's now seeing things in light. So I think it's very sort of a universal experience to be attracted to the light. And I was thinking that all sentient beings, all of life is attracted to light, isn't it? Like plants, they do their experiments when you're at school to work out the impact of light. I do remember that from my biology lesson. And when plants are deprived of light, they don't grow, do they? They don't grow to their own potential. They don't become actually what they really are. But even if there's a really tiny crack of light in otherwise a really dark space, the plants will grow towards it. So all beings are attracted to light, I think, in some way. So I think that attraction to physical light sort of really corresponds with an attraction to emotional light, to the light of awareness, the desire to know, the desire to understand. I think they sort of very much sort of corresponding. So we want to be conscious. Again, that's what I think. It's a natural thing to want to be conscious, to want to be aware, and we sort of experience that sort of that search, if you like, for that sort of spiritual light, that sort of emotional light. We can experience that as love as well, So we want to know, we want to understand, and sometimes we can feel, when we don't understand, we can feel that we're in the dark. We say that, don't we? That's a kind of expression, I was just completely in the dark about something. And what that suggests is a kind of searching for the light. So so physical light, that sort of quest for the physical light, which we all have, is also a quest for spiritual light, for emotional light, for truth. So I knew I was attracted to physical light, and I was also, I think I made that link between light, the light in the sky, to the light of awareness. I think I made that link when I was quite young. And it's partly, I grew up locally. I grew up in East London. I was born around here, but then my parents sent me back, me and my sister, to the Caribbean when we were quite young, sort of like 2 years old or something like that. So I spent my early years in the Caribbean, and there it's very, very bright. The quality of light, is quite stunning, really. So I sort of spent my early years in a very light environment, and then I came back to East London when I was about 6 years old. And it was very grey. That was one of the first things I remember. It's just like how grey it was. But interestingly, then I remember when the sun came out, particularly if it had been really grey. You know, you'd have the clouds and the sun came out and it's shining sort of through the clouds, and you get those rays of sun, the beams, yeah, just sort of beaming down, you know, spreading its rays. I sort of remember that, and I remember really being touched by that. I also grew up in a Christian sort of household, so we used to go to church, and I don't know if somebody told me or I used to just think, I just thought of it, I'm not sure, but I remember being told or thinking that those beams of light was God's light touching me somehow, uplifting me. I hadn't got to the point, I was only 6, so I hadn't got to the point of questioning God. You know, I still believed in fairies and angels and God, it all sort of one thing really. But I do remember feeling really comforted by the idea that there was this something or someone up there that was kind of caring and wanting me to feel well and happy, and to lift me above my surroundings, which I was finding challenging. I was finding East London, its greyness, its harshness, there's a lot of negativity as well around me. I was finding that challenging. So these sunbeams somehow just represented hope, and it represented I just felt connected. I felt more connected when the sun was shining in that way. So yes. So there's that sort of quest for light, an emotional light, and we can feel uplifted by it. I mean, you just see that when the sun comes out, you know, particularly in the autumn or winter. You know, people are just happier, aren't they? They're more relaxed. It's just a very natural thing. But light is inextricably linked to darkness. You know, we have the concept of light because of darkness. And as a child, and I'm sure this is pretty universal as well, I was frightened of the dark. I sort of remember having to go upstairs to bed and, you know, before the light was turned on, and just always feeling a little, you know, anxious, and that sort of trepidation of having to go up, you know, it's kind of, I don't know, it is a natural thing. I think most children have something like that. And also I was thinking that actually, I'm sort of you know, certainly I remember as a child being really sensitive at night as well, sort of if there was a noise, unexpected noise or a movement, you know, just my imagination would just, you know, sort of start and go wild, because you know, you can't see what's really there. So you know, if you can't see, then, you know, your imagination starts working. So there was always this sort of slight anxiety at night, and I think there's still echoes of it actually, still sort of echoes of the night sort of holding a sense of you know, well, the unknown, isn't it? That's what it is. It's the unknown. And horror movies and thrillers, they really sort of play on that, don't they? They sort of play on our fear of physical dark, and again they've made that link to the emotional dark, you know, the emotional depths, the things that are unknown, the things that have yet come to light. And there's a suggestion that if it's not come to light, then something's to be feared, yeah? And they really sort of play on that. So yes, so I was frightened of the dark, at the same time fascinated by it too, because I sort of, you know, if it's something's unknown, then there was part of me that wanted to know what was unknown, but scared of kind of actually finding out, you know. So yes, so we're drawn to the light, but we recoil from the dark. We don't want to always, we're frightened of actually seeing what's in the depths and what has not yet come to light. And our unconscious fears that's where our unconscious fears are based in. So yes, always a relief when light, you know, came in the mornings. Always a relief. So I think the light in that way has held a fascination, and then as I grew as well, the sort of the light of the setting sun, you know, was kept me enthralled too. So I was recently in Spain at our ordination retreat centre, which is up in the mountains. And it was great actually, because in the mornings we had to trek to where we meditated, and in the mornings we actually woke up in pitch dark, and we had little tiny torches, but the only thing that really lit our way really was the moon. You know, the moon would be up many mornings, and the stars. So that was very, very beautiful, actually. And then in the evenings, by the time we finished meditation, the sun was setting. So we sort of trekked back, and where the retreat centre was sort of near a cliff. So it was quite funny, actually, because sometimes I was late coming back from the meditation centre, from the meditation hall, and then you just see loads of people in kind of like deck chairs, sort of just chairs with cups of tea, looking at the sun, you know, and sort of looking, because there was a big vista of blue sky and you could just see the sun. And I just thought it was a bit like the big screen, you know, like the TV. It kind of felt like a bit like that, because they were all waiting for the sort of climax of this scene, and it was like this drama sort of unfolding. And yeah, it was just stunning, actually. And you just think, gosh, such a simple thing that happens all around the world every day can really just hold us, you know, hold our fascination, and it was very, very beautiful. So I sort of, and that was just recently, but you know, I sort of always had this attraction to the setting sun, even way before I was a Buddhist. And I would notice that it's a bit like rainbows have this effect, that if you see a rainbow, you just have to at least look at it for a while, yeah? And the setting sun is like that. When you see a sun that's setting and the colours that spread across the sky, you just have to pause, even for a few moments, and take it in. And it's quite interesting what happens, actually, if you do take the time to allow the setting sun in. Sanjit was sort of alluding to that earlier. So yeah, what does happen? In fact, you can tell me what does happen if you sort of gaze at the setting sun. Anything?
Well, you soften, don't you? I think.
Yeah. So there's a softening effect, isn't it? There's something about, well, firstly it's warm usually, yeah, very warm. So when we are warm, our physical body just relaxes. So there's one thing, and then that can have a corresponding effect on the mind. Yeah. So your body relaxes and the mind relaxes. The mind softens. Yeah. Anything else?
A sense of wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a sense of wonder. Nana Vach was talking about that in the break. So. Well, what is it you wonder?
For me, it's like it's a sort of a cosmic kind of wonder.
A cosmic wonder. So what? Something like? Give me.
Just the sheer amazingness of the very fact that it's happening at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the scale that it's happening on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the scale of it, yeah, the scale of it, that it's you know, that it's just crossing the whole sky, and then actually thousands, millions of people, maybe hundreds, just looking at this scene at the same time, perhaps, yeah. And then how is it happening, yeah? How is it happening? That's also something you wonder, yeah. How has this come to be, this? Yeah. So wonder, so relaxation, softening, wonder. Anything else?
I think sometimes gratitude as well.
Oh.
The day is drawn to a close in such a beautiful way as well.
Yeah. So that is the sun setting is a signal, isn't it, that the day is drawing to a close, and you've made it to the end of the day. You've made it to the end of the day, and not only have you made it to the end of the day, that you're witnessing beauty at the end of the day. Yeah. So there's a sense of gratitude for that. Yeah. Anything else?
I always feel like it's a bit of a promise for the next day as well, somehow.
Oh, a promise for the next day.
Yeah, sort of. I feel like, well, the setting sun's supposed to mean, well, you're gonna, the weather will be good tomorrow.
Okay.
And you're gonna have another nice day tomorrow.
Yeah. So it's sort of like what they call those proverbs, superstitions. I don't know what that is yet, but that kind of thing. So actually, the fact that the sun's set, the day is drawing to a close. We know and we hope that the sun will rise again tomorrow. It gives us another opportunity. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Another thing that happens, I think, is that when that relaxation, that softening happens, that reflection, a day has come to an end, the gratitude, the wonder, all of those things, I don't know, it's somehow for me anyway, I'm very much in the moment. I'm very in the present moment. I'm not sort of anywhere else. In a way, with all of that going on, it's enough, isn't it? Yeah? You know, you're not kind of thinking about what you're having for dinner, really, when you're sort of in the thaw of that kind of experience. That moment is enough. And if that moment is enough, there's a level of contentment that can come in. Yeah? And with contentment, there's a calmness. The mind settles. The minds can settle. So, it's really wonderful, really, because we don't actually have to do anything for that to happen. All of those things that we've just described happen just by our being open and present and willing to take that experience in. Yeah. So it is really wonderful. And for me, it's a relief as well. I sort of had this sense of, you know, like you can breathe out, you know, you can be breathing, you breathe out. It's just a kind of relief that you can have that kind of experience. And the mind, it's also a relief that the mind can stop wandering. It's a I don't know if you remember when you first started to meditate. I certainly do. And how, you know, it's just very simple, isn't it? The mindfulness of breathing. You breathe in, breathe out, you count, you get up to 10, you start again. But how frustrating it was, you know, how quickly the mind would just wander. It would just have a life. Maybe this still happens sometimes. So, but it would just have a mind, you know, of its own. And how the meditation could feel quite like hard work. I remember it could feel like quite hard because you're constantly trying to bring the mind back. You know, it's just doing its own thing, and it. You know, at the end, I remember at some of my meditations at the beginning, I used to think, oh God, it's a relief that was over. But with this kind of contentment and this sort of calmness, the mind just settles by itself. Yeah, the wandering just stops, and that is a real relief. You know, the word samsara. So Buddhism, we talk about the world, the conditioned world, the world as we know it, as being samsara. That's the sort of the name it's given. But and samsara means wandering. So we're sort of wandering beings. You know, we're constantly doing this, that, and the other. We're constantly moving around physically, literally. But our mind is going at an even faster pace than that. Yeah. So if we're so to actually move towards freedom. It is also a movement towards our mind actually just being able to be still and in the present and no longer needing to wander. It's no longer needing to wander because this moment, you know, is enough. Yeah. And the setting sun gives us a glimpse when we're really open to it of all of that. So yes, and it takes us naturally into meditation. All of that, all of those experiences, it takes us naturally. We're withdrawing our energy from the sort of external world, and we're sort of drawing it inwards. Because obviously, the setting sun, as I'm describing it now, it's sort of it's corresponding to, I guess, the sun, you know, within, you know, the sort of our heart and the sort of nature of our minds. That's what it's pointing to. It's encouraging us to kind of, you know, see that actually this is part of our experience. This is part of our natural experience. If only we allowed ourselves to sort of be there and actually explore our inner world. So yes. So Amitabha, who's on the shrine, he is very associated with the setting sun. And he's also one of the figures. There's 5 Buddha figures, all of different colours, and he's the red Buddha. And he also is the most popular of those 5 Buddhas because he has a whole school of Buddhism, I think in Japan, isn't it, that's sort of dedicated to him. And one of the reasons is because the school says really you don't really have to do anything with Amitabha. You just sort of conjure up or allow in that sort of the colours, the reds, the colours of the setting sun, and you'll enter this very beautiful realm. You enter a very warm, still realm of meditation. And they also, all you have to do is call his name as well. It's as simple as that. You know, chant his name, and there you are. So that's the school, and that's why it's so popular. So I also said Amitabha is a Buddha of love, and the form of love is compassion. So yes, I was thinking about this. So, well, Amitabha, it's interesting about compassion and Amitabha. So I was talking about his realm, like all you have to do is really chant his name, or, you know, sort of allow in those sort of images of the setting sun, and then you're in that moment of wonder, gratitude, calm, and it's a very, very beautiful moment. And the school call that the Pure Land, yeah? So when you're fully engaging with Amitabha, you're in a Pure Land. So it's kind of interesting, this idea of a Pure Land. And there's quite a lot written about it. So, but my sort of, one of the things I'd like us to think about now is, it's a bit like what Nana Archer was saying in the break, in our little commercial break out there, around the moment being really, the tiny moments being what really satisfies. And, you know, he used the example of the spider and the ladybird and watching those things. But, you know, any moment really, you know, even the rain falling can, if you're in a certain state of mind, even the rain falling can feel like a wondrous experience. So Amitabha's realm, the Pure Land, sort of promises that all our sort of actions, all our interactions, we can see them in their uniqueness. We can see that they're rising, they're coming into being through all kinds of conditions, actually. You know, what causes rain? You know, that's a whole set of conditions, isn't it? We think of that much more when we think of things like rainbows and setting suns, because they're a bit more out of the ordinary. But all our ordinary experience, if you think about it, arises through sort of myriads of different conditions. And the Amitabha's, in the Amitabha's realm, you're open to that. You're open to seeing all the different conditions that come into being, and you're open to seeing that as completely unique. And if it's completely unique, then it's precious in a way, yeah? It's important, it's significant. So that's Amitabha's realm, this Pure Land. And so seeing ourselves and seeing other people as unique, I mean, I think it's a very good practice, actually, because I think we take ourselves and other people for granted, you know, this is you, this is me, this is how I am, I've always been like this. It's kind of like we fix ourselves, yeah? We fix ourselves. And sometimes we might have the experience of other people fixing us, or situations fixing us. This is what you're like. And we do that for others. We do fix other people, yes? So actually to step back and begin to think, well, actually, what is truly unique, you know, about myself? What is truly unique about another? Well, let's just think about that. What effect might that have? Just asking ourselves that question. What effect might that have? Is that a hard question?
Well, it could be a tenderness.
Okay.
Could arise.
A tenderness might arise. A sort of care for this being that's in front of us, yeah. So tenderness might arise. Anything else?
Respect.
Yeah. Tenderness, respect.
Compassion.
All heading in the right direction. I'm thinking as well what you said earlier about wonder. We don't often think about that in relation to other people unless we really like them a lot. And then we kind of, you know, got that sort of, you know, we might be fascinated, mightn't we? If we're really attracted to somebody, or, you know, we think somebody's very special, then we might then be thinking, wow, you know, gosh, they're amazing, yes? But but then that they're in that sort of special category then. Yeah, other people are not so amazing, but they are really amazing. But actually, if you were able to just think, well, actually, this person, they're brought into this world by many different conditions. Their actions, both positive and otherwise, are influenced by many different conditions. There's a sense of wonder, I think, that can go on. Yeah, and how might that be then if? So I'm asking you some difficult questions. So if we've got that sense, if we're really thinking about all the different conditions that make up a person, how might that be then if the behaviour or if that person's acting unskillfully or negatively, or even ourselves, of course. Yeah, but see, sometimes it's easier to think about other people. So how might we relate to that then if we're aware of all the different conditions? How do we normally relate to it if we think somebody's acting unskillfully or negatively?
We assign a lot of blame to them.
Yeah.
Make them wholly responsible.
Yeah, wholly responsible. I like that. And blame, absolutely, yeah. Anything else that we normally do? Sorry? We get really angry and upset.
We separate from that.
Yeah, we completely polarise. They right now are nothing to do with us. We don't want anything to do with them somehow, don't we? Yeah, so there's a real, in fact, our sense of separation really does increase. Yeah, when we just fix that person in terms of their behaviour, particularly if it's negative. Yeah. So now, if we're then thinking about this sense of condition, really understanding all the myriad of conditions that produce, go into creating somebody, including influencing their behaviour, how might we then approach that if their actions are negative? It might be the same. It's a genuine question, but
Even with disappointment, if you've got someone who isn't special, someone when they fail to live up to that.
Okay, so there might be disappointment. So it might be a kind of, and that disappointment's interesting, isn't it? I find disappointment quite an interesting emotion because I think it's something around, I wanted better. Yeah, I wanted better. Yeah, and so there's expectation there with disappointment. So expectation may be to do with us. Yeah, but there was also a sense that I wanted more better than this. Yeah, so there might be disappointment. What else? If we're taking into account, sort of conditioned nature of somebody.
Kindness and compassion.
Kindness. So how would kindness come about? Why would it come about?
If you think about why someone might have done something, it becomes more human.
Yeah. So we're doing the opposite. We're not kind of, fixing as in you are this. This behaviour is you. This is all you are. There's nothing more to you. We're not doing that. We're actually stepping back and going. There's a kindness in the sense of, when you said compassion there, there's a kindness in the sense of the possibility for forgiveness. Yeah, there's a possibility of being able to see some of the conditions that led that behaviour into being, which might be ignorance, it might not be knowing, not knowing any better. Yeah, not seeing the harm not that person not seeing the harm that they're causing to themselves and others. And then our response then is one of sadness, yeah, not blame but sadness. And out of that can be a desire, which is where compassion begins to come in, a desire for them to grow, yeah, for them to heal, for them to know more of what's truly beneficial. So this kind of seeing, seeing the conditioned nature of things and seeing the uniqueness of every single person, every single sentient being, really can produce quite a different response to how we engage, with others. And this is called Amitabha. Amitabha's wisdom is discriminating wisdom. It's able to discern. It's able to discern all the things, all the differences, all the uniqueness, yeah, and able to see the potential of a person, the potential of their qualities. So it's discerning the qualities of an individual, and at the same time discerning the conditioned nature too. Yeah. So in a way, holding those things together. So even if somebody acts, unskillfully, even if we act unskillfully, we sort of have a much broader perspective in which to view that. In that we know there's more to us than that particular habit, and then there's a sort of desire to then grow develop that quality, and to let go of those habits. So Amitabha is the Buddha of discriminating wisdom, seeing our uniqueness, our beauty, and our potential. So yes, I've been using the physical sun as a symbol of Amitabha and light, infinite light. And I don't know if you've been here for the series. We've been sort of looking at this. It's not particularly this book. This book has a number of different figures, Buddha figures in it. So I would recommend that if you're interested in getting the whole symbolic, aspects of each figure. But it also explains, why we have figures in the first place, really. That's an interesting question, isn't it? And why we have a form. So we have forms like this figure on the shrine in order to make it easier to have a real sense of what a spiritual quality is, a spiritual truth is. In its abstract, it's actually very hard. So if I say the word beauty now, I'm interested what actually is in your mind when I say the word beauty. What's in your mind when I say beauty? What comes to mind?
It's that sunset.
It's a sunset, okay, yeah. Anything else?
I think with my kids.
Your kids, yeah?
I saw a glowing white feather.
A glowing white feather. Yeah. We had a red rose earlier in the meditation. So there's we have to, somehow the word beauty by itself doesn't do anything. We need some form in which to then explore it, yeah? So that's kind of what Buddha figures are. And then when you get ordained, so I'm ordained, you take on a practice. In this tradition, throughout the tradition, we take on a visualization practice which really sort of explores that form, really details that form, and you basically sit and meditate with this figure. So I sort of took up Amitabha at being ordained. I actually had several figures I was interested in, actually, so I thought they were all really interesting, but there were two other particular figures that I thought, they're really interesting, exciting. Amitabha was just one of three, and so I didn't actually know which figure I was going to take up until I had this dream. So I'm going to share this dream. I've shared it once before, and I'm going to share it again because I think it's directly related to why I ended up taking the figure. So in this dream, I'm walking across a bridge. So I'm walking across the bridge. It's a low bridge and it's a very, very long bridge. In fact, it's so long you can't see the end of this bridge. And I have a sense when I'm starting walking across the bridge that I don't actually know where it's taking me, but I'm wanting to go there. Yeah. So there's a drive there. I'm sort of just walking across this bridge, and it's very grey, very, very grey. The sky is just a monotonous grey. And I'm wanting something to happen in the sky because it's so grey. I don't know if you have that sometimes. If the weather's just like this blanket, you just think, I think, come on, it can't just be this blanket the whole day long. So it was a bit like that in this dream. I was just like this grey sheet in the sky, and I just thought, come on, something must be happening. But nothing was happening. Anyway, I'm sort of walking across this long bridge, going, I don't really know where, but clearly going somewhere, wanting something to happen. And then very slowly I notice this pain in my neck, sort of in the left of my neck. And it's a sort of dull pain, and it's just sort of there. But I carry on walking. And no matter how long I walk, the bridge doesn't seem to get any shorter. It's just the same old, bridge, the same distance, and the same grey sky. And every now and again, this pain in my neck gets sharp. Yeah. So at first it's like it's a dull ache, and then as I'm walking, every now and again, I have to sort of stop because the pain's really sharp. And then I sort of soothe it, and then I carry on walking. So this just goes on and on and on. It's almost like timeless, just there's like no sense of time. I'm just carrying on walking. And then again, this pattern repeats itself. The sharp pain, it ebbs away. I carry on walking. I just carry on, and then the sharp pain, it just repeats itself again and again and again and again, and the bridge doesn't get any shorter, and I still don't know where I'm going. And then I sort of think, is this it? Is this it? Is this my experience? I mean, it's not terrible, apart from when it's sharp. Then it's really bad. So when it's sharp, it's really bad, and I want it to stop. But the rest of it is just, it's kind of okay, except there's this ache there, sometimes at the very fore of my mind, sometimes in the background. But then I think, is this it? Is this all there's going to be? And I'm not really happy, I realise. This isn't really being happy. But I don't know what else there is. And I guess I must wonder, well, I don't know what else there is. Is there anything else? Is there something other than this? And then when I hear myself say that in the dream, I then hear a voice. And it's a very calm voice. And it says, turn to the right. So I'm like, there's a right? It's just a completely new concept that there could be a right. Although I knew I was turning to the left and the pain was in my left, but I didn't conceive of right. So I just ignore the voice and I carry on walking. The same thing happens again and again and again. And it's getting colder as well. It's getting colder. And I can feel the sort of dampness, that cold when it's really quite damp. I can begin to feel it in my bones. But I carry on walking. And then the voice comes again. Still calm, it's warm, it's very encouraging. Turn to the right. And then I hesitate. Because what will happen if I turn to the right? What's going to happen? Is it going to be different? Am I going to be the same? Am I still going to get to where I think I'm going, although I don't really know where I'm going? What will I have to give up? What will I have to let go of? And then I think, well, it's not really that bad, the pain. I can sort of live with it most of the time. So then I realise I'm afraid. Really, that's what it is. I'm afraid because I don't actually know, what's there. I don't really know what's on the right. So I'm just afraid. And I do know what's on the left. Yeah, it's very, very familiar to me. So it feels easier to stay there looking, even though it's painful and cold. But then something in me stops. I just think, well, what is there to lose? I could just have a quick look. So I stop and I sort of take a deep breath and I turn my head to the right. And I'm enveloped by warm sunlight, lots of colours, oranges and reds, and it suffuses my whole body, the warmth. And I'm happy, I'm calm, it's very rich. I actually feel like it's a very dynamic experience that's happening, and it goes on forever, and it feels very complete. I don't need to be anywhere else. I'm no longer driven by anything, I'm not reaching anything, I'm not looking to go anywhere. This moment is enough. So again, very deeply peaceful, fulfilling experience. So then I eventually turn my head back, but then there's no left. The bridge is gone, the grey sky is gone, there's no right, there's no left. Everything has changed and nothing has changed. So that was the dream that I had. And I woke up and I just felt different after that dream. And the first thing that struck me was, this kind of was interesting, this being in this pain, you know, that I was in this pain, but I just got used to it. It was like, that's all I knew, really. So, you know, even when there was a possibility of doing something different, it was actually it took quite a step, courage, if you like, for me to at least be curious and look in the other direction. So that was quite interesting. But then how simple it was, you know, actually, it was actually it took a whole process, but the act of turning to the other direction was a very simple, natural one. You know, if there's a left, there has to be a right? So that, you know, it's a very simple act in the end. But what opened up was a kind of limitless experience. So yes, I knew after dreaming that dream that I would take Amitabha. Amitabha would be the practice I would have. And I got ordained not long after that, and I was given the name Suryagupta, which means she who is protected or guarded by the sun. So I was very happy to receive that name. So you practice this meditation every day. So I was practicing it every day, and I really loved the practice because, as I've described, you just had to sit there, really think of imagine the colours, sort of the setting sun, and in this particular practice, the sun was over the sea. So sea, sun. It was just very, very lovely. So, and it was very easy. And as soon as I sat, I would feel very positive. I'd feel the metta, really. So I was very connected and devoted really to the practice. And then I went on, we used to have these Amitabha retreats where people that did that particular practice would come together. So I'd go on these retreats, and it was great because we'd have fires and we'd roast marshmallows and have toast, and it was just it was really fun retreats. And I came off one of these retreats, and usually when you go on retreats, one's meditation practice is definitely strengthened and your concentration and you're really absorbed. But after coming off this particular retreat, I started having difficulties with my practice, actually, which was I'd never had really before. I couldn't sit with Amitabha anymore. I didn't know why. And it was quite dramatic, actually. There was a lot of things going on around it, but it was very dramatic. Just couldn't sit and do the practice. So that sort of threw me into a bit of a spiritual crisis because I didn't understand why. On the one hand, for years I've been happily practicing it, no problems at all. And then suddenly, quite dramatically, after a very good retreat, I can no longer sit and take in the colours of the setting sun. So I got quite upset and eventually went to see Sangharashta, who's the founder of this movement, and told him about it. And he suggested I take a different practice, which surprised me. I thought he'd kind of give me some tips to work with it, but he just said, do this other practice, which is Vajrasattva. And Vajrasattva is completely white, so it was a real contrast to the practice I was doing. But I did it because I thought I wanted to meditate, so I was doing that practice. But I always thought I'll go back to Amitabha. I'm just doing this, until I'm ready to go back to the Amitabha practice. But actually, it didn't happen. Sort of that year, months and months went by, years went by, and I had this rupa, this statue, it was on my shrine. And I'd still like looking at it, but I wasn't doing the actual practice. I kind of forgot Amitabha somehow or other. Sort of just went to the recesses of my consciousness, and I somehow or other forgot. Anyway, a few months ago, I'd done a solitary retreat at a friend's house, and I've got my other practice, my other statue. I took it with me, and this little statue has it's a tiny little bell, like that big. It's a tiny bell it has. And when I got home from this retreat, the bell was missing. And I was really upset. I thought, oh no, I've lost the bell, because it just didn't quite look right without it. But I thought, look, it's just, doesn't matter. It's all in your imagination anyway. Just do the practice. It really doesn't matter whether it's got a bell or not. But then I'd look at it every now and think, oh, the bell's missing. And I emailed my friend. I said, look, can you look for this bell for me? And she said her and her husband had looked everywhere, and they couldn't find the bell. And I was really upset. Anyway, it's just a symbol. It doesn't really matter. It's all internal anyway. But I was sad. And then one night I dreamt that I found the bell, or the bell had been found. So I woke up from this dream in the middle of the night really happy, until I realised that the bell was still missing. It just was a dream. So then I was really sad again. But then the thing that shocked me, I thought, where is Amitabha? I sort of realised I hadn't seen this Rupa, this statue, for years, and had no idea what it was. And actually, if you hold it, it's really heavy. So there I was worrying about this little bell. Actually, I'd lost a kind of bronze statue. And what really made it worse was that a friend had given it to me, and a friend had given it to her, and a woman, an order member who's now has since died, and she had saved up for months. She'd seen it in an antique shop and had walked by it every day and saved up. She had quite a meagre salary, a small salary. She saved up for months and months and months to buy this Rupa. And then at some point she'd given it to my friend, who'd then given it to me. And then when I remembered all of that, I just felt really awful, like, where has it gone? So anyway, I rang. I remember I moved house about 5-6 years ago, so I thought it must have, and I moved quite quickly, so I thought, it must be in a shed of my mum or something. So I rang my sisters and, asked them to look in their attics and basements, and then my sister went to look at my mum's shed, and it wasn't there. I looked through my mum's shed, it wasn't there. They'd all looked in their basement, so it's nowhere to be seen. And I was like, how could I have lost it, really? So anyway, that was that, and I just had to come to terms with the fact that not only have I lost a bell, but I'd also lost this very precious Rupa. But then, out of the blue, I think I had almost come to terms with it, but then out of the blue I got an email from my friend, months and months later, that said she'd found the bell. So I was really happy, and emailed back straight away. And then the next day, my sister rang me and said she'd found the Rupa, and it had been in the shed all that time. And I said it hadn't been in the shed. We both looked in the shed, but there it was. She walked back in the shed, and there it was, looking. So I was very happy to have found Amitabha again. So they're both now they're both on my shrine now, both of my practices. And I just really like looking at it. It's very much like the sun, really. It has an effect just by sort of gazing. But what it's really doing is pointing you to your own, that inner realm within that is still, that is calm, that's also vibrant, and that's rich and warm, and that can discriminate the uniqueness of each experience, the uniqueness of you, your conditioned selves, but also your qualities and the uniqueness of others. So I sort of encourage us to, what I like about Amitabha is it actually does encourage you to sort of embrace life, embrace life wholeheartedly, really, because everything is significant. Everything can have meaning, can be imbued with meaning if we look at the world in that way. So yes, and of course encouraging us infinite light, encouraging us at the same time to bring aspects of ourselves to light, aspects of ourselves that we maybe not wanting to see, the aspects of ourselves that we're frightened by, our fears, our desires even. It's sort of encouraging us to bring that to light, and it's in the light that things can get transformed. So even the most difficult emotions, I've talked about the glow of the setting sun and that having a relaxing, softening effect, but even our most difficult emotions, our most intense emotions, maybe it's not so much the soft glow, but maybe it's the fire in the sun, yeah? So Amitabha is also associated with fire, because fire transforms. So if we allow our sort of unconscious, things that we're frightened of, that's holding our energy, that's keeping our energies really stuck, if we can bring them into light, but with love, with compassion, they can get transformed, and they can get transformed into something very beautiful. So I've got a little quote here from Rumi that says, "Grief can be the garden of compassion." So grief can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life's search for love and wisdom. So grief can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life's search for love and wisdom. So when we gaze at Amitabha, when we gaze at those qualities, those colours, it gives us that sense of tenderness, that sort of fascination with, sort of the moment and with the uniqueness of the moment, but we can also shed, allow that infinite light to shed on our fears, on the things that we keep at bay as well, and bring them into light so they can be transformed. So that's all I want to say. I might end with a little poem, which is by quite a well-known one by Lama Govinda. So you can maybe relax or relax. That's all you have to do actually, is relax. Yeah. And I'll read it. So it's from Lama Govinda, The Way of the White Clouds. To the Buddha of infinite light, who is meditated upon while facing the setting sun, when the day's work is accomplished and the mind is at peace. Amitabha, thou who liveth within my heart, awaken me to the immensity of thy spirit, to the experience of thy living presence. Deliver me from the bonds of desire, from the slavery of small aims, from the delusion of narrow egohood. Enlighten me with the light of thy wisdom. Suffuse me with the incandescence of thy love, which includes and embraces the darkness, like the light that surrounds the dark coil of the flame, like the love of a mother that surrounds a growing life in the darkness of her womb, like the earth protecting the tender germ of a seed. Let me be the seed of thy living light. Give me the strength to burst the sheath of selfhood, and like the seed that dies in order to be reborn, let me fearlessly go through the portals of death, so that I may awaken to the greater life, the all-embracing life of thy love, the all-embracing love of thy wisdom.